Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us again for Mental Training Thursday. If you're just tuning in, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Dr. Rachel Walker. I'm the director of PHP, and I'm joined here today by Dr. Bob Deal and Chris Thomas. So today, we're continuing with that theme of poise under pressure for sport and life. This week's topic, the third skill so far, is going to touch on and teach an exercise on wise thinking. But first, as we do, we have a question from a student athlete about last week's topic, which was on presence. And so Chris is going to deliver that question.
So training presence by using my breathing as an anchor can be triggering and makes me more anxious. Do you have any other anchors to practice presence training?
Yes. So I think first of all, I just want to acknowledge that is normal. I think for various reasons, sometimes when we're practicing with the breath as an anchor, I think especially initially, it can be challenging. And then just in general, if we're dealing with different things, like perhaps a traumatic experience, it can be hard to use the breath as an anchor to the present moment, because in those instances, we're already pretty internal. And again, the breath is only one anchor to the present moment. It's one tool that you can use to anchor to the present moment. There are others. So some of the others, I like to call them kind of informal anchors to the present moment. So when you're going about your daily activities, let's say folding laundry or doing your dishes, if you don't have a dishwasher, or you're just rinsing a dish before you put it in the dishwasher, noticing things like the water moving, the sound of the water, how the dish feels in your hand. So bringing it external in that way can be helpful anchors to the present moment. So I alluded to using some of your senses in that example. We can take that further by using all 5 of your senses, whether that's going on a walk and trying to name, one thing that you see, one thing that you hear, one thing that you feel, one thing that you taste, one thing that you smell. All 5 senses can bring you and anchor you back to the present moment, but taking you outside of maybe what your mind is kind of getting you caught up in an internal way. I think one thing that I loved as an athlete that worked for me so I mentioned last time I was a ski racer, and you got to ride the chair in between your runs. And I call it the Lifesaver Moment, because whether it's a mint or a piece of gum or a Lifesaver, putting something in your mouth can help your brain to actually refocus on that taste and that sensory experience that is going on in your mouth. So you could experiment with your own Lifesaver moment to anchor you to the present moment, and just sort of ask yourself different questions as if you're tasting it for the first time. What does it feel like to have this mint or this piece of gum in my mouth? What is it? What is the texture? Is there a hole in the mint? What is the taste? Is it mint, or is it something like strawberry flavor? So just kind of exploring that as if it's the first time that you've ever tasted that in that moment. And then I think the other piece to it is also just watching our mind, and that's going to help us transition to today's topic of wise thinking. So if we're able to take sort of this other perspective on our minds and zoom out a little bit of noticing that thought, noticing what we're getting caught up in. And I think creating awareness around the stories that we tell ourselves. So that's the first step, is that awareness of that other. And we're taking that awareness from the other perspective. Then the second step there is asking yourself if the story is helpful, asking yourself, is this thought helpful? What am I getting out of this thought? And that can help to transition yourself to that other perspective. And then the third step is unhooking, right? So if you're getting caught up, you're going to want to learn different tools, which you will learn one today, of ways to kind of notice and let go of those unhelpful thoughts. So I know this was mentioned in the mental lift handout, if you want to reference it. But the one thing that I like to do with a thought, if it's an unhelpful thought, so let's take the thought, I'm not good enough. When you say that thought, I'm not good enough, like that, there's a lot of attachment and tension that can come to that. And your mind can be very convincing that that thought is actually true. And it might not be true. It most likely is not true. And so one thing that you can do is create a little bit of distance from that thought. So I'm not good enough. Then you could say to yourself, I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough, right? There's a little bit of space there to give yourself a little bit of flexibility. And then the emotion that is tied up in that statement becomes less powerful. It doesn't go away necessarily, but it becomes less powerful. Then the next step to that is I'm noticing I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough, right? I notice I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough. Again, one step removed. And the hope there is you're creating this other perspective on that statement that then it's like, yeah, that statement isn't so helpful for me. And my mind's trying to engage me in that. And I know that statement's not true. It's just letters that have been turned into words, that have been turned into a statement that your mind is very convincing of. And then once you do that, the next step there is you have that space. So what do you fill that space with? Power phrases. I will, I can, I am. The statement, I will perform to the best of my ability. I can make it up this hill at a fast pace that I'm running. I am capable, right? Those are very strong, powerful statements that can help you, especially if you repeat and repeat and repeat with your self-talk in sport and life, to just keep you propelling forward. And again, there's that awareness piece that we have to come to first to create a little bit of space. And that thought of I'm not good enough might not ever go away. That's okay. But if you can create space and reinforce these other power phrases in your life, in your sport, that can be helpful. And with that, Bob is going to give you another exercise that can be helpful in unhooking from those thoughts.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rachel. And thanks for everyone who's here. I think just to introduce this activity, I talk with myself about this because we all talk to ourselves truly, and with other student athletes, that the mind's really a suggestion box, and we can choose those powerful phrases that work for us and the ones that don't. Today's activity is really about, just like Rachel said, and we've used kind of, the clipboard as a metaphor, but just getting a little space from that stinking thinking. And then how do we fill it with what actually works for us? So I'm going to invite everybody right now to dive in with me with this practice on wise thinking. And just from the outset, I think at the start of any activity, give yourself permission for whatever posture works for you. So you could be sitting or laying down. If you're comfortable with closing your eyes, you can do that now. I'm just going to invite you to let your shoulders drop and gently push your feet into the floor, getting the sense of the ground beneath you. And just take a moment to notice how you're sitting or laying down or maybe standing. Simply notice how you're breathing. Notice any sounds and what you can hear. Notice what you can feel against your skin, any contact. So different parts of the body contacting other parts, feeling the wind, or your clothing. And bringing in your sense of smell or taste. So again, using all 5 senses right now just to be in this moment, knowing that is more than enough. So there's this part of you, and part of all of us, that can notice everything that we hear, we touch, we taste, we smell, think, and feel. I don't really have a good word for this, but I'm going to call it right now just the observing self. But you can call it whatever works for you. And life, in many ways, is like a stage show or a movie we're watching on the big screen, or our favorite Netflix series that we're binging on our computer or TV. And on that stage are all your thoughts, all your feelings, everything that you can see, hear, touch, taste, and smell. So this observing self, this part of you, can really step back and just watch the show. Shining the spotlight of your intention on any part of it that serves you, or just stepping back and taking it in all at once. So I'm going to invite you to undertake a quick challenge for the next just 30 seconds. Keep your attention on an anchor. It could be sound around you, sensations in the body, or breath. Just stay with that anchor as best you can. And I know I find this hard because our minds are these masterful storytellers. It's going to jump out and tell you all sorts of interesting things that grab your attention, pull you away, pull you towards the future. And see if you can just let those thoughts, those stories play out on the screen in front of you or stage. Just if they're passing characters in the story of your life. And gently returning back to whatever anchor fits for you. There's the to-do list walking across the stage or the screen. There's the I'm terrible at this presence thing, or Bob's putting me to sleep, whatever the thought might be. Just let it pass on by and come back into presence, into the 5 senses, into whatever anchor works for you. And from this place of unhooking and gathering space, as you sit in the audience of your life, let's bring some things to the screen that really can serve us, the stories that empower us. We're finishing this practice with those 3 power phrases, starting with, I will. Just entering, naming what you commit to, what you stand for in this moment or today. I will. Savoring that commitment. And the second power phrase, I can. Naming any ability, strength, quality that gives you courage, that gives you meaning in this moment. I can. And then lastly, I am. maybe a value of yours, a role you're taking today, an identity you hold of importance. I am. What feels powerful and strong, and just holding that in your body, in your presence in this moment, highlighting that character in the stage show or Netflix series of your life. And whenever it feels right, if your eyes have been closed, you can open them at your own pace. And we'll jump back into our conversation.
Thanks, Bob. I really liked that exercise, how it kind of tied in all the points that I outlined and how to actually create that space and walk yourself through letting go of unhelpful thoughts and moving toward thoughts that can be helpful, like your power phrases. That's what we have for you for today. So thank you for joining us. Next week, we are beginning a month-long series on mental health awareness because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Our first topic for next week, next Thursday, will be mental health is performance. As always, if you have any questions about this week's topic on the exercise, please email Bob. His email is robert.deal@colorado.edu. Deal, DIEHL. Each week we'll use the first few minutes to answer a question from the previous week. So please send us questions if you have them, and we'll finish today with a quote. Make sure your worst enemy is not living between your own two ears, by Laird Hamilton, a professional surfer. Thanks again.